in Ephesians chapter 1, according as he has chosen us in him before the foundation of the world, that we should be holy and without blame before him in love. And again, this refers to what we like to call the covenant of grace before the foundation of the world. The last thought that I want to share with you today: was this election sovereign, or was this election based upon foreseen merit? Because many people today will say, well, God chose them because he knew that they would accept him, and that would be election based upon foreseen merit. Or some other people might say, God chose Christ, and everyone who is in Christ is elect because they accept him and they become a part of him, and since God chose Christ, by extension of that, he chose all the people that would eventually be a part of the family of God because their own choice. But in that framework, God didn't choose the people themselves. So how do we answer those questions? Well, first of all, remember total depravity. There's none that doeth good, no, not one, Romans 3. There's none that seek after God, according to Romans 3. According to Romans 3, there's none that understands God. There's none who fear God. There's no fear of God before their eyes. To the natural man, the gospel then is foolishness. 1 Corinthians 1, 1 Corinthians 2:14, and many other passages. In fact, in the book of Psalms, we read that God looked down from heaven upon the children of men to see if there were any that did seek him or understand, and they are all gone astray. They are all gone out of the way. So if God looked down from heaven to say, hey, who's going to choose me so I can choose them? Who's going to believe so I can choose them? What he would have seen is that no one understands him. No one seeks after him. Total depravity says, as we emphasized a couple of weeks ago, there's none that's going to seek after God until God quickens them, raises them from spiritual death, as you see in Ephesians 1:19. We believe according to the working of his mighty power, which he wrought in Christ when he raised him from the dead. And also, number 2, Paul clarifies this entire concept in Romans chapter 9. He says, Jacob have I loved, but Esau have I hated. And regarding Jacob and Esau, they're both pretty wretched guys as their story begins in the Bible. In verse 11 we read, for the children, Jacob and Esau, being not yet born, neither having done any good or evil, that the purpose of God according to election might stand, not of works, but of him that calleth, it was said unto her, the elder shall serve the younger. So before the children were born, and they were both rotten sinners from the moment of their conception and their birth into the world, it wasn't that one was good and one was bad, or both were good and God rejected one. That's not the case. They were both bad, and God chose one to be merciful to, and the other one he left where he was. You might say, well, that sounds unfair, and you might accuse God of wrongdoing there. But remember, fair is to be punished for a crime that we commit, and we are all guilty criminals. So as we see here, God is sovereign in whom he will show mercy. Look at this. What shall we say then? Is there unrighteousness with God? Romans 9:14. God forbid. For he saith to Moses, I will have mercy on whom I will have mercy, and I will have compassion on whom I will have compassion. So then it is not of him that willeth, nor of him that runneth, but of God that showeth mercy. God chooses in his sovereignty whom to show mercy unto, and that is the election of grace. God is sovereign in the covenant of grace.